All right, so Rancho Mirage pylon sign once again, augmenting it. Um, this thing's got its money's worth. How many times we've changed it? So get ready. There will be a test later. Take notes. So refacing this, I kind of was like looking at what we've done before. Went to the Palm Springs one, did something similar, but obviously something much smaller is a better, it's an easier target to hit. Um, so we were able to sort of just bite the bullet and make this shape. We'll come to that on the big one here in a second. But it's kind of similar. I believe the top had to be chopped and kind of patched because it had something sticking up. So it's sort of similar to what we're doing. So taking notes off of what we did here. So as you can see, I kind of have it laid out with some panels. So working one thing at a time. Let's see, I'll go over here to the viewer because this PDF wouldn't import, say corrupted. So I'll just work on it from the viewer here like an animal. So you can see where that's inset, obviously. So dealing with that first. So pulling all this down, fine. So dealing with that, we've got this spot here is where that would be cut in. I threw a quick measurement on that. If these are indeed true, these measurements, then this works out well because on the curve, this guy here is 119 inches. So we're within routable size. So I am proposing that we can just route out some 1/8 inch channel. And if this is indeed true, this is 6 inches. So we could do like a 3x6x5, have it unequal so you can get in there with your screw gun. And then at that point, we can just go ahead and do light kerf. Not so much as that it's noodly, but we can sort of form it. And then we can kind of patch it into the ends here. So you could either do just a piece of metal on top and just, self tap, and it'll kind of tie it into the top. And Steve Miller flying over this thing would be the only one who could see it. Or you could go from underneath and be a little fancy, but you could bend a piece and then, self tap it through there and there. But anyway, so you could get this piece of channel and that'll kind of complete that. And then we could also just ship over. So the idea is this thing there'll be a lot of kind of in the field stuff. There won't be a lot we could do to get things completely dialed in here because just there's a lot of, everything's so big and just kind of not knowing. So just working off of these drawings, but then we can also just send over some straight pieces of this channel and then you could just cut it to fit just here and maybe another piece here that catches some of that framing if that indeed is there. I don't know if that's the framing in the back or if this is the framing on this face. On the built out face, I don't know if this is the framing for this face or if this is the actual framing for the actual internal box. I'm not sure. So anyway, so you'll be able to get that channel kind of patched in there, get that channel there. And then that comes to the skin. So that's kind of the main question here. That's either going to, what directions we go with this. So if I recall, we had a piece originally when we first got this thing, a piece fell off here. We brought it back to the shop and kind of recut it, remade a piece that fits. I know that it's definitely not 063. It's either 08 or 09. So you could go many directions with this, but I'm thinking we could do 080, 5x10, 080 white. So we have a little more strength than 063. And it matches more of what's out there. Just in case you need to patch directly into a hole or something, it could match the 09 a little better. That being said, I understand this thing's at 100 feet and nobody's going to see anything, so there's a lot of margin for error. So it's sort of a call whether we could, if you think we could get away, this is kind of an install. I'm kind of looking for James and Jonathan's as well as management. If we could get away with 063 white, or if we need to work with 090. I know we worked with 090 on this guy, but it's a lot smaller, but I don't know if we actually needed to, be that thick. I know that the thicker material is less wavy, So I think a compromise might be 080 white white. That also allows us to just scuff and text coat. So I'm thinking about possibly, we're approaching this sort of as like a drywaller would. So you don't go into a house and, it's studs and frames and shoot measurements and then try to cut all the drywall somewhere else. You just go in with a pallet of drywall and just start hanging sheets. So kind of similar to this, these are 5x10 just raw. We could start across the bottom here and just start self-tapping it to the existing skin and also either hit framing. So so once you get this patched in with the channel, then that's where the question comes in: do we involve route or not? Because I'm always a fan of offloading to the router, but sometimes we might be in the middle of routing a lot of other stuff, living desert at this time, whatever. So also it depends on the guys in the field whether this works for you. So one way to approach this would be, because I want to just keep this simple as in like full sheet, so we don't have to actually route all the way around. So if we just work with off the pallet, we could get close and rough it in that we could take measurements from this point to here, and if we choose to keep 2 inches for safety, we could just in the driveway do a straight cut of each of these and get these panels fleshed in, at which point then we text code everything and then just drive over with a pile of text coded panels, start here, lay these across, and then you can bring these bonk and then start working your way across. Then you're within an inch or two, and then invest in some Makita blades and circular saw blades and some more batteries, and then just work your way along and just chop this and give it a haircut and then rough it in, a la drywall. Or we could do a sever cut on the router if we feel confident that we would want to get to within that distance. But whether or not these will match up perfectly, again, you won't see it though. So it's kind of a which direction we think would be safest. We can kind of agree on something there. So, but we could theoretically work with raw edges on the router. We would just reference KISS and the router table to where we have a reference line for this. We'll throw the sheet, and then we could just do a single sever cut at this angle, and we could go over there, whether we choose to do a 1/2 inch extra maybe or something like that. And so theoretically these would be done, and we could go that direction if we feel confident enough that the drawing says this is 29 feet, and if we feel confident enough that that's what we'll follow. Or like I said, we could driveway cut, keep the router completely out of it, and we could just sort of rough cut these and get them close, and then just final cut with a saw. Also, then we also have whether or not when this logo comes off, so we solve that problem, whatever. Then when this comes off, whether there's skin behind this logo here, so whether this dark brown skin is on there, because it did say that this was put in the field after, or when we take this logo off, this is exposed framing back here, as well as if there's exposed framing up top. That is where having a few sheets that are text coded, ready to go, but are brought with out in the field, you could work off the back of the flatbed truck, and you could call out measurements and sort of just patchwork it in. That's where if we're working with 080, it will match up with the 09, decently enough, and we could go ahead and patch in the field what we need to. Also, when we rip this off, whether or not there's skin behind this, so when we go to take that off, whether we have to actually, repatch around in here to make that look clean, whether we just take 2 sheets and just, self-tap them on and cut it off, or if you just bring out some chunks and that are already text coded, you can just patch in the 08 right there, similar to a drywall job. So those are kind of questions and approaches that would be like, what's best for install? How would we do that? Just do it in the field. Somebody could be down by the truck. Somebody else could be up in the bucket, calling out measurements, and somebody could just cut a rectangle if there isn't skin under this, and just patch it in and just caulk it, make it nice. Once you get all the panels on there, you just go around the edges, caulk everything nice, caulk the, and just get ready for paint. Then it'd just be like a wall, nice plastered wall ready to go. So that would be sort of a confab powwow, whether we want to, just try to hit this target and slice these with the router, maybe leave a 1/2 inch up for safety, or we just do straight cuts and keep these out of the router and then just trim it in the field a la drywall. So once all that's up, then I think it's just a matter of doing, I don't think I'm not sure it would be worth trying to hit these with the target. This was a smaller target to hit. So we went ahead and put the mounting holes in the faces. If we want to introduce this project to the router, whether or not we, each of these panels will also get all the holes that are necessary for mounting, or we just go out there, get this up as fast as possible, clean as possible, and then we just do paper pattern and just put letters up there. I'm saying, again, not reinventing the wheel. We go ahead and just keep these trim cap faces, keep them light. I don't think we could do any kind of trimless that far up. It's going to be wasted. Plus, having that weight, having some sort of trimless face up there is going to be way too heavy. So I think we keep these nice, easy trim cap letters up here for the new logo. And, so that would be that. Let's see. And then this logo here, we just have to choose whether we do Palm Springs stretch face, get in the extrusion, or we do Cathedral City where we do a polycarb face. Again, hopefully we learn from things. The polycarb face needs to be less than 108 to get material in. So we work backwards from there. Make sure we have a nice heavy 3-inch retainer at least with the wind out there so the face doesn't come flying out. That's why stretch face might be a little better. But essentially, as long as we set this on top and we go through and catch through bolts into some of the framing, and we can do unistrut on the back, I don't see a problem with this having any sort of issue with the wind, as long as we, it's not just self-tapped up there. So we just have to make sure we catch some framing, but we could just basically make this the same as, we'd have to decide Cathedral City or Palm Springs. And then channel letters, again, we would just go ahead and just put a paper pattern up at that point. Or, like I said, if we want to run it through the router, if we don't think that we'll already be impacted by any other jobs, we could run each of these panels through, put all the holes, and hope for the best that everything lines up. So, but I think a paper pattern might be a little better in the long run. So that's what I say. So in review, I'm thinking maybe 080 white, saves priming, scuff, text coat, be done. Whether or not we just driveway rough cut these and then finalize saw in the field, or we take the time to put these top panels through the router, and this one as well. We can just trim it to match this, and we do just a single sever cut, and then just try to hit that target. And then I see also just either having to patch in 080 and make it look good, or we'd have to just put 2 individual panels on the end here to patch that in if there's no skin under this. And same thing here, we just have to kind of patch it in, make it look good. And same thing up here on the top, if there's no skin under this logo, might have to do some patching. So it's going to be a couple days of work on in the field. I know it's always everything needs to be done within 1 day for install, but I don't think that's going to work here. We'll just have to budget some time to make sure that it all gets done properly, and we have time to work and get it all ready to go before we put the faces on. So, and then obviously after everything's all caulked up, it's just one big paint job. So that's kind of how I see it. If there's any other questions, but I would like feedback from James, Jonathan, guys who are going to be there doing it, if that's a way to go, or if they see a strategy might be a little easier. So that's it.